Hello and welcome back to your show Identities Umhlobo, where today we are joined by Jennifer Savage, the Deputy Chief of Mission at the United States Embassy here in Zimbabwe. She is basically number 2 from the ambassador. Madame Savage, we were talking about generally your upbringing in the United States, and we spoke about the similarities and the challenges that are still in Zimbabwe regarding gender-based violence against women and girls. But I know that the US Embassy has invested so much in Zimbabwe. Why is it important for the government of the United States to invest in gender-based violence and ending HIV and AIDS across the world?
HIV AIDS and gender-based violence are global crises. They're global problems.
Right.
HIV AIDS is a global health crisis. Gender-based violence occurs everywhere in the world. We at the United States Embassy have reached out to the people of Zimbabwe and through our HIV AIDS work, through the President's Emergency Program for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR,
Yes.
we're able to reach out directly to the people of Zimbabwe and make a difference. And we have to applaud the government of Zimbabwe and the Ministry of Health and Child Care for their incredible commitment also to combating HIV AIDS. And I think together in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Child Care, Zimbabwe is one of the few countries that is now approaching epidemic control.
Nice.
It is within reach, it is within possibility that Zimbabwe will be one of the first countries to reach UNAIDS goals of achieving containment of the epidemic.
Oh my God, that is huge. Congratulations, Zimbabwe.
Yes.
The Zimbabwe government and also the US Embassy, the United States government.
Indeed.
Wow.
We contribute, for example, this year $150 million into this through this program. And
Is this money getting straight into the ministry?
No, our funding goes through implementing partners,
Okay.
so
Who work with the ministry?
non-governmental organizations that work directly with the ministry. And we're focused on a number of areas. We're focused on certainly testing and counseling services. And we have, since in 2017, for example, 3 million people in Zimbabwe receive testing and counseling services. Of those, we want to make sure that everyone knows their status, gets tested. There should be no stigma, no reason why you don't want to know, because if you do know your status, if you happen to be positive, all you have to do is get on treatment and expect to live a healthy, happy, successful, full, long life, and never have to experience full-blown AIDS or the stigma that goes along with that. I think we have, so we focus on the testing and counseling services to ensure that everyone knows their status. We focus on getting people on treatment and keeping people on treatment. Once you're on treatment, as long as you stay on treatment, that's where you expect to live the full and healthy life. And we also focus on improving laboratory equipment and laboratory services here to make sure that everyone knows their viral load. If you're on treatment and the virus in your system is so suppressed that it's not detectable in laboratory studies, you also can't transmit that to another person. So that's another way of containing the epidemic and making sure that you're not causing new infections. And so we focus on those areas. We have incredible programs. I specifically want to highlight the DREAMS program. 345,000 young girls and adolescent young women in Zimbabwe participate in the DREAMS program, where they receive support for themselves and their families to make sure that they stay in school, that they understand the risks associated with HIV AIDS, that they understand that gender-based violence should not play a part in their lives. And that they remain these strong, healthy young women that they are at the start of the program, and they remain that way through the program.
Wow, that is amazing work. And I was just calculating, if you say, so far, you have assisted 3 million to receive services around HIV. And I'm like, that's almost like what? Out of 8, that's about 3, 4 out of 8. Assisting our country with such great, such a great input. And I can't afford not to wonder then why, because I come from an area of being a human rights activist, and I work with girls, with communities who are suffering in the communities, and also who are now victims of HIV and AIDS. And in my layman's understanding, I do believe that what has caused our communities and society to have such problems, number one, has been mismanagement in our country of resources over the years. Mismanagement, looting of resources, corruption that has been so huge in our country that we still talk about, that we are hoping the present day government increases accountability in the deals that they're dealing with. Even as we're saying, Zimbabwe is open for business, and we are vigilant in holding the government accountable, even on human rights. I've been one of the people who've been calling for the removal of sanctions. So I can't afford to think, okay, you're investing so much in the country that you have put under sanctions. Is it not taking from one step moving forward in investing in the people because you're changing people's lives, and then a step back because they are the same people who are enduring the results of sanctions or ZIDERA? Mm-hmm. How is that going?
Well, let me just clarify. Our sanctions program is targeted at individual human rights abusers. And as someone who is an activist and a supporter of human rights, you should understand that there are, from the United States perspective and on our sanctions program, there are, I think, just over 80 individuals and entities that are subject to sanctions. The country of Zimbabwe is not subject to sanctions. It is just these individuals who are human rights abusers who are subject to sanctions. So really our sanctions program is very targeted, and those individuals who are subject to sanctions are able at any point, if they believe that they were not involved in human rights abuses, or if they have redeemed themselves and distanced themselves and participated in a reconciliation process for what they've done, they can petition to have themselves removed from the sanctions list. So our sanctions program is extremely targeted at individuals who were human rights abusers at the time the sanctions were imposed.
We are going to go on the break, and when we come back, we're going to follow up on ZIDERA, what ZIDERA means. And there's been calls, I think a few weeks ago, Strive Masiwa, the founder of Econet Wireless, the biggest employer also in Zimbabwe, has called for the removal of sanctions and ZIDERA. So we're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we're going to delve into that to say, okay, what does being an individually targeted sanctions, and what does ZIDERA mean, and what processes can happen for any of those to be removed? Stay with us. We are going to take a break.